chose to hang out with iHeart Health. So please, let's give ourselves a round of applause. That's what's up. That's what's up. I like that. I like that. Well, thank you to Ali Mufor and the entire iHeart Health organization for putting this together. Um, we all know, health and wellness is a very big factor in our society right now. Everybody wants to be healthy. Everybody wants to work out, but some people find it very difficult to, find that workout partner or somebody to motivate them. For example, Adija, sitting to my right here. And also, some people find it hard to balance the finances. That's where Dr. Lillian comes in. Oh, this is my introduction for the people, by the way, for our panelists. So we have our financial specialist, Dr. Lillian. We have fitness and wellness, Adija Acha. Sorry about the last name. We have Agnia Tabang sitting over there, beautiful. Can we have a round of applause for her too? And we have Dr. Grace sitting next to Dr. Mufo. So I'm going to let each and every one of them introduce and tell us what they do, introduce themselves again. So if you don't mind.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adija Acha. Some people call me Day. I am a personal trainer, and I have been a personal trainer for about 2 years, but I have been working out on myself consistently for 5 years, getting on 6 years. And I always tell people I am not a skinny chick trying to tell you you're skinny. I am a fat girl trying to tell you you can make it to skinny. So I have been on both sides of the spectrum. I have been thick, and I have worked myself. I've worked, at this point, I have lost a total of 93 pounds. Yeah, working on myself. So I am, like I said, I'm a thick girl telling you that you could make it to skinny. So thank you.
You're next.
Okay, this works.
Oh, you got to turn on your mic,
All right.
by the way.
I didn't have my on. Hello, everyone. Thanks for making it. My name is Anya Tabong, and I'm a nurse practitioner specialized in family practice, psychiatric, mental health disorders, and substance abuse. So I'm very passionate about bringing awareness to especially mental health, because I feel like it's one of those forgotten diseases, disorders that's not really much talked about. So I like to tie in the two. Physical diseases ties into mental, because if the mental's not right, then we can't take care of the physical. So that's my biggie.
Dr. Grace.
Hi, I'm Grace Ayafor. I'm an interventional cardiologist, a cardiologist with a special focus on health disparities, particularly in women of color. We die more than everybody else from heart disease, which is an interesting thing. It doesn't matter what socioeconomic status, what education level, what income status, Black women still fare the worst. And it's not just in heart disease, it's in almost every health issue, and there's got to be a reason why, and somebody has to make it better. Part of it is education, and that's why I'm here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming again. I'm Lillian Abongwa. I'm a pharmacist, been a pharmacist for about 11 years, and I'm a financial educator as well. How this came about is, if you think about it, anything you do in life has to deal with finances or money. If you want to live a good lifestyle, if you want to be healthy, if you want to travel, whatever goals and dreams you have, it ends up tying up with finance or with money. Now the thing is, how do you get to balance that lifestyle with health, with money, and keeping your sanity? So that's kind of where I come in. People should at least get to know the basics of how money works. I don't care if you have a financial advisor, an accountant, that is awesome. But before they tell you what to do, you need to understand what is there and what your priorities are. Everybody's priorities are different. It varies from person to person. So when you get advice from them, it's not necessarily bad or good. It's just that it has to fit you. So that's where I come in, and then I tie it a little bit with health and how it affects your health. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you. So we're going to start with you, Dr. Grace. Since we're here for I Heart Health, it's only right if we talk about the heart. So my very first, you mentioned about, women's heart. Is it just women, or is it women and men?
Everybody dies from heart disease, right? Heart disease is the #1 killer of both men and women. But for decades, people have thought it's a man's disease. People have thought it's a middle-aged or older man's disease. And I think for that reason, there's been a lot of focus on men and not enough on women. So over the last 20 years, the death rate, the mortality rate, and the morbidity rate, so people affected by heart disease, the numbers are coming down in men. With all the advances in medicine, with everything we've been doing, men are dying less from heart disease. Well, that doesn't seem to be affecting women. Women are dying more from heart disease. And so it's time to say, well, yeah, we know men, have heart disease, but guess what? Women have it as well. So we probably should focus on them a little bit, let them know that they have this problem. They may die from this problem. What can they do about it? What are the risk factors for heart disease? How can you decrease your risk? Do you even know that you're at risk? What are you doing about it? Young people drop dead from heart disease. They had no clue. Nobody would have guessed. So it's not just an old people's disease. And also, the decisions you make now affect your eventual risk of having heart disease. So there are things we can do now, being young, being mostly women, and even men, to decrease our risk.
So why do women die? Why do more women die from heart disease? Why do more women die from heart disease?
The rates of, more women die of heart disease than men. And why? So we think first thing is education. The second thing is risk factors for heart disease. A man walks in the room, his blood pressure is 150/90, that's high. Most physicians will act on that. A black woman walks into the room, her blood pressure is 150/90. Most physicians would say, eat less salt, or do more exercise, or lose more weight, and I'll see you back in 6 months and we'll see what your blood pressure is. A man says he has chest pain. He calls 911. He's taken to the emergency room. Everybody looks at what's going on. A woman feels pain in her chest, and she tells herself, I can't be having a heart attack. I'm having a very stressful day. I just need to go relax, I have kids to take care of. I have to finish the groceries. I have to finish cooking. Nobody has time to go to the doctor. Plus, even if I go, they'll just think I'm crazy. And she stays home, okay? So women have as many risk factors, maybe more than men, but they don't take it seriously. Unfortunately, their providers, their health providers, their doctors, their nurses, don't seem to take it as seriously as they would if it was a man. And then when we find out about it, it's too late. That's the issue. Women don't believe they have heart disease. Their doctors don't believe they have heart disease, or feel like, there's more you can do about it. And that is true. There's a lot we can do about it. We should take ownership of our health, but we should first know what are our risk factors. Are we at risk? And once you know that, knowledge is power. You can make more changes.
Thank you for that. Adija, how can women use exercise to combat heart disease?
I'm going to go from my own personal story. When I was at my heaviest, I discovered that I had high blood pressure when I was pregnant with my kids. And it continued after the children were born. And I remember I kept going to the hospital and they kept telling me, you have high blood pressure. And to me, it was just like, okay, I have high blood pressure. You gave me medicine and I'll be okay. But every time I went there, and I remember this particular time I went there, and the triage nurse took my blood pressure, And she turned around and looked at me, and then she went back inside and called the doctor. The doctor came, took my blood pressure, and then asked me, how did I come here? I was like, I drove here. She's like, really? I was like, yeah. It's like, because you have stroke values. And you know, she sat there and explained everything to me, and she was like, you are going to die, because she delivered my kids, my twins, and then my younger son. And when I went back home, I decided that I was going to change my life. The question is, how can exercise help? It can help in the sense that I am no more on blood pressure medication. I have not taken blood pressure medication for 2 years. So, I am not telling you about somebody else's story. I am telling you about what happened to me. It helps because I have seen it happen. So we're working out cardio. They call it cardio because it's a cardiovascular exercise, right? It helps your heart muscles get stronger. So it definitely, like, there's no other way. It's pretty to wear size 2, but it's better when you can climb stairs and not feel like you're about to pass out.
So we all know, you know, just going to the doctor, you know, doesn't play much, you know, bigger factor in the whole, you know, taking care of your health and wellness. It also has to do with diet, also making sure that you're not obese. Diabetes could be a factor to that. Yeah, so I mean, how can we, not just women, but an asterisk on women, how can we, you know, tie in all these factors, you know, diabetes, and all that?
It's definitely a challenge that we all face, including myself. I have patients, and you know, it's a big discussion because you tell them you have hypertension, you have diabetes, you have metabolic syndrome, you know, you're obese, so you know, you give them medications, and then you tell them, yeah, and so make sure you eat low carbs, and then you're on your way, and then you follow up in 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and we recheck it again. But you know, you have to. I feel as most individuals are visual learners, so sometimes I don't, you know, speaking isn't always doing it, but I like diagrams. Show them that if you eat this, this is what's going to happen to you. This is what it's going to look like. If you eat too much sugar, if you have foods that are high in carbs, if you have foods that are high in salt, when you have high salt diets, you retain fluid, therefore high blood pressure. If you eat foods high in carbs, this is what's going to happen. Your arteries are going to get clogged. You're going to have a stroke. You're going to have a heart attack. These are the things that are going to happen. So sometimes when you show them these visuals, it plays. So you become a little bit more conscious when you're doing your grocery shopping. You know, yeah, the doc did say this, and I remember that picture showing. I ain't trying to be like that. I ain't trying to die. You know, there's so much going on in the world. I'm still trying to see it. I need to see my grandchildren. You know, so you kind of, you know, have to have those conversations, and you need to know, as providers, we need to know our patients. So you know, more discussion. What do we say? So what is it like in the home? What do you guys eat? You know, maybe we should try this. Maybe we should try that. Because, you know, just saying it alone really isn't enough. But, you know, discussing, giving them examples. Handouts sometimes is, people don't even read them. You give them a stack of papers and they go home and they're going to throw them away. Or your kids are going to color on them. So it's always very important that we show examples, we discuss, and have visuals. But again, you know, keep low salt, low sugar. Definitely stay away from the carbs as much as possible. Always find substitutes for those things.
Okay. Dr. Lillian, let's try to tie in, you know, finances and being a pharmacist. You know, let's try to put it together. Let's just say, you know, I'm a patient, right? Or let's say any lady in the, in the audience come up to you behind the counter, and you know they have this prescription from the doctor. What's that discussion like between you and that patient in terms of medication, in terms of how to take your medications, you know, on time, and also not overdosing?
So what is supposed to happen, right? Supposed to happen is if a patient comes to fill a prescription, what we are supposed to do is, after all that goes through and we finally check the patient out, we actually step to the side with them and ask, have you been on this medication before? Do you know why you're using this medication? And before I even proceed, I will tell you that a lot of times, a lot of patients don't even know why they are on a particular med. because unfortunately we live in a society where it's chop, chop, money, money, money. Go see the doctor, they're in there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, they just write prescriptions, they give them, they have no idea, well, it was the doctor that wrote it. The doctor said I should take it. Why are you taking it? I don't know. Or they ask, why am I taking this med? Well, it's kind of difficult for me to tell you because I let you know, what did you see the doctor for? This particular medication could be used for sleep, it could be used for depression, it could be used for migraine, it could be used for your nerves. And the minute you start with depression, I'm not depressed. Who told you I'm depressed? You're like, exactly. I don't know why you saw the doctor. So why did you go in there? Because I cannot tell you why you're using this. This could be used for several things. So one thing is also, we try to let the patient, make sure you find out from the doctor, what are you taking this for? What are you using it for exactly? So after we kind of go through that, then we explain to you what the side effects of the medications are, and when it's going to be a good time for you to actually take it. Is it better at bedtime because it causes dizziness? Is it better to take it in the morning because maybe you'll be peeing all day and you don't want to have to be waking up at night to go pee? Is it better to take it at this time because you don't want it to interact with this other medication you're taking now? Is it better to take it first thing in the morning before you have breakfast? So all those things are the things we are supposed to be discussing with the patient. However, as I said, supposed to be, again, everybody is money, money, chop, chop. So to be honest, in a retail setting, it's just pretty much like 30 seconds. Chop, chop. Have you had this before? No. Okay, make sure you do this. Da, da, da. All right, any questions? You're like, no. Because they see that you're busy, they don't really want to bug you, so they end up leaving with not much information. And as Annie said, the paperwork you give them, even though all the information is on there, it ends up someplace. I'll read this later. After I take the pill, I'll read this later. And it never happens. So my whole thing is, it's not just the healthcare professionals. You as the patient, we have to be responsible. We cannot leave all the responsibility to someone else. What is your role? You need to know what you're taking. You need to know why you're taking it. And if they tell you, okay, maybe it's high blood pressure, maybe it's cholesterol, you need to ask yourself, how can I make it better? One thing is, we don't take it seriously. As Adija said before, she didn't care for her blood pressure. Oh, well, yeah, blood pressure, so what, you know. But, and as Annie pointed out, when you actually put it together and say, this is what is going to happen to you, you will end up here if you don't take your blood pressure meds. If you don't take your diabetes meds, guess what? You could end up being blind. You could end up with an amputation from a paper cut. Did you know that? Most people don't know. I actually had a neighbor when I was in pharmacy school. He had a paper cut. And before we knew it, his leg was amputated. I was like, wait, how is that possible from a paper cut? Well, when you have like diabetes, your nerve endings, you don't feel. So with the paper cut, you may not even know that something happened. And so you ignore it, and then it gets infected, and things are happening on there, and you don't know. So it is our responsibility to make sure that we also help take care of ourselves. It's your responsibility. You won't say, I'm taking this because of the doctor. No, it's not the doctor. The doctor doesn't have diabetes. You do. If you're supposed to take your meds every day, do your best to take it every day. Nobody is perfect. And by the way, I'll let you know, even the healthcare professionals, they are the worst here. So even though they tell you right there, take it every day, but you know, we try to tell people, take it as best as you can. Try to remember maybe every morning, before, put it by your bedside, maybe every morning take it before you do this. So that's pretty much what we like to do with patients. And at the end of it all, you realize that it ties in with finance. Because if you don't take care of yourself, guess what? Eventually you'll be on more medications. So that's more co-pays, more doctor visits, taking more time from work to go to the hospital. And with insurance, then the cost of insurance goes up, and then they have to spread it now to everybody, you know, just because you're not taking care of you. You need to play your own part. And that's why I really like what iHeart Health is doing, because we are reaching out to the community. But then the community also has to take the responsibility to search, to get out there and get this information. Nobody can force you, but you have to do your own part.
That's right. That's right. I, we all know, well, some people know, let me put it that way. You know, we live in a society where there's a lot of medications. Medications are being made every single day, every minute, every hour. You know, people with hypertension, diabetes, and, you know, all these chronic diseases, how can they use exercise to limit their intakes of medication?
That question should be for Adija, but
No, we're gonna get to her. We're gonna get to her.
you know, we got the fitness guru over here that done gave us some examples, you know. But exercise definitely plays a role. The problem with exercise, and I'm a witness, is consistency. You know, so, you know, I do it for 2-3 months, and you see me, and I've lost 15, 20 pounds, and then when the time comes, like right now, you know, I just had a brownie on the way, it's warm. You know, but exercise definitely plays a role, and consistency is key. So it's something that we try to instill in our patients, and that's the good thing about coming to the doctors often. When your doctor says come in 6 months, or if they say come in 3 months, if they say come every year, you know, it also helps with that reinforcement, because exercise will definitely help reverse. This is a living witness right here. It will help reverse some of these illnesses. So with you losing 50 pounds, you will no longer have to give yourself that insulin. You will no longer have to take that antihypertensive every day of your life. Because when we write these prescriptions, we tell patients, or the patients will ask, so I'm going to be on this for the rest of my life? And I'm like, yeah, if you don't eat right and exercise, you will. You know? And they're looking at me like, so I can stop taking this? And I'm like, you surely, absolutely can stop taking it. But exercise definitely plays a role, but it's all about being consistent. We're in a technological world, so you have all the apps. You have all the information. You have friends. People go to Instagram. I mean, you posting them pictures on Facebook. You can go to Google and get you some information. Those little workouts, 5-minute workouts. I love Pinterest. I don't know if any Pinterest fans here. I love Pinterest. I will be quick to look up a 5-minute workout that I can just do on my bed real quick. You know, I walk during the commercial time, do some leg lifts, you know, something. But it's a form of exercise. I did just burn like 3 calories. It may seem little, but it's a lot.
Well, Adija, let's put the ice into the cake, right? You got people coming to you for exercise daily, right? Some of them are on meds, some of them are not. For those who are on meds, like, how do you try to get them to a point where they don't have to depend much on medication? That's if you do.
Whenever I have a new client, I start with, especially those who come because they are obese. First thing I always tell them is to get a clearance from their doctor to see if this is okay. And when we start working, I always tell you, and that's what I do to myself, always remember why you're doing this. Keep your why present in your mind. Don't get comfortable. Like, you cannot lose weight enough to be like, okay, I'm there already. Weight loss is like, or health and fitness is a journey that has no destination, right? Like, so you will not get to a point where you say, okay, I've achieved total health and fitness, so I just have to let my body go. It becomes your life. People ask me, why do you still work out? You've lost all of this weight. Why? Because I know it is always present in my mind that if I stop, there is a chance that I would go back to taking blood pressure medication, because I have done it. It has happened before. So you slowly just make it become your life, where you realize you cannot stop. When you start on this journey, it's like breathing. It should be that important to you for you to live your best life, right? I say my age group of girls and younger, most of them, the good thing about my generation is we are so focused on being good parents, good moms, right? We do all of these things that we need to do to be great moms. And I remind, most of my clients are women, and I always remind them, being a healthy and present mother is part of being a good mother. That is part of being a good parent. You could be alive and just be on your bed and cannot walk. You're no good to your child. So part of being a good parent is being present, is being healthy, is being able to do these activities with them. So basically, I teach them that, like, I want it to become that important to them, that they want to come every day, that it becomes their lifestyle. They don't just do it to look cute, they do it to stay healthy.
Dr. Grace, what are some risk factors of heart disease and how can they be preventable?
So the most common risk factors, well, we have two types of risk factors starting there. There are modifiable risk factors, ones that you can do something about, and then there are some that are not modifiable. Examples of those are genetics, right? Let's assume your father died from a heart attack at 50. You can't change who your father is or who your father was. You can't pick a parent. That's a non-modifiable risk factor. The older you get, the higher your chance of heart disease. Well, you want to get older. That's why we're doing all this, right? We want to live long. So that's a non-modifiable risk factor. But there are very many modifiable risk factors. And you have to know whether you have these. So the common ones are elevated blood pressure. High blood pressure has been recently redefined. A blood pressure greater than 130/80, greater than 130/90 is hypertension. So 130/90 is hypertension. It's no longer 140/90. Blood pressure is 132/90, you have hypertension. Why does it matter? Yeah, you're not gonna get a stroke today. In 10, 15 years, what's gonna happen to you? You ignore this for 10, 15 years, you're still in your early 50s or maybe your late 40s, and you're where your father was, right? High cholesterol is a risk factor. Most of us, who are 40 and younger, assume our cholesterols are fine. Why do you make that assumption? How do you know? Some people have genetically high cholesterol. You won't know, right, until you check it. Sometimes we think, well, I'm skinny or I'm not obese, I'm young. Come on, I'm sure my liver is doing its job. I'm sure my cholesterol is fine. I'm a woman. My cholesterol has to be great. You don't know. You won't know you have high cholesterol until you check it. And again, high cholesterol itself will not kill you. It's what's happening to your arteries over the years, where that cholesterol is being deposited. Being inactive, so lack of exercise, to be precise, is a risk factor for heart disease. You know why? Because it leads to high blood pressure. It affects your cholesterol. It increases your chance of diabetes. And talking about diabetes, for a while, the medical community has called diabetes a heart disease equivalent. Because people with diabetes who have never had a heart attack are at the same risk of getting a heart attack as people who have had previous heart attacks. If you're diabetic, it's as if you had a previous heart attack. And most people, if they lose 10% of their body weight, they no longer become diabetic. It's curable by weight loss. How do you lose weight? Diet and exercise. So those are the main risk factors. Smoking, which I don't think is a big deal in our community, but smoking is another risk factor. A clear risk factor for, I guess I'm wrong, but a clear risk factor for heart disease. Smoking is something that once you stop, 10 years later, your risk goes back to as if you never smoked. Obviously, based on how many years you've smoked. So those are the main risk factors. Obviously, you know if you smoke, but when was the last time you checked your blood pressure? When was the last time you checked your cholesterol? When was the last time somebody checked your glucose, your fasting glucose, or your A1C, which you don't have to be fasting? You can walk into your doctor's office, get your A1C checked, know if you're diabetic or pre-diabetic or not. And again, until you know these things, you will probably do nothing about it. Go get checked. Decreasing these risk factors keeps you alive longer, keeps you functional longer.
Dr. Lillian, I'm gonna give this question to you and Adija, but with you first. Finances play a great factor in meal prep and also exercise. You have to buy the gear, your shoes, your attire. You also have to plan, your meals, what to buy, when to buy. How can people how can people save up for meal, in terms of meal prep? How can people balance their finances?
Okay. That's actually a good one. I can probably assume all of us here work, right? Yeah? Okay. All right. How many of us pack a lunch? 3 days, 3 or 4 days? Okay, that's good. All right. This is one big place where you can make a huge difference. Now, other than so the two things I think there is health and finance, right? So when you pack your own lunch, you're kind of mindful as to what you're actually packing. I don't know if you guys would be comfortable packing a lunch and you have a donut that has all this cherry in the middle for like lunch, right? You probably will be packing that in your lunch, right? So usually if you're packing your lunch, it's something that is good. And if you had to buy lunch at work, check this out. So let's just say you don't take lunch to work. 5 days a week, spend about $10 lunchtime, right? 15? No, see, so it's even more, 15-ish, right? And there are some days you even want to impress some colleagues and you take them out to lunch. So imagine if you had to do that. So you're looking at about $50 to $60 every week just for lunch. I mean, not your full meal, just lunch every week, right? Keep that figure in mind. For like easy math, let's just say $50, right, for easy math. Now, if I come up to you, we've been talking and you're complaining, oh, I never have a chance to save money for retirement or pay my debt or do this or do that. I tell you, okay, you know what? Why don't you put $200 away each month? Somebody might actually smack you, right? Where do you think the money is going to come from? This, that. Remember the $50 you spend on lunch every week? That's $200 a month right there, right? Okay. If you take the $50 and go to a grocery store, you'll get something decent to cook for 5 days. Now, granted, I'm aware that it could be boring packing your own lunch every day. Sometimes you need some excitement, right? You just want to get lunch at work. Fine. But at least, if we get into that mindset of trying to pack our lunch, even when you're packing your lunch, some of the things you pack in there, water, right? Why don't you go to Sam's Club or Walmart or Aldi and get a 24-pack for like $3 rather than getting from the vending machine $1 each time? You want a snack? No problem. Go buy a box of your favorite snacks, right? We like a snack, right? There's the mid-morning snack and then there is a snack after lunch. Now we just have to have it. So those are some little tidbits that you could actually do to save money. And it actually helps you to with your health in the sense that you're trying to pack your lunch. Thanks.
Adija, you mentioned, I watched one of your videos, Ali Mufo made, for Eye Health, and you mentioned the 80-20 rule. How do you advise, or what advice do you give, the people you train on this 80-20? And what is the 80-20 rule anyways?
So the 80-20 rule states that for weight loss to happen, it's 80% of your diet and 20% of exercise, right? Who here has ever done a burpee? Right. Now I'm going to give you information that might scare you or it might encourage you, right? If you do a burpee continuously for 1 hour, continuously for 1 hour, do you know how many calories you lose? About 563 calories. But do you realize that you can eat 563 calories in 2 minutes? So as hard as a burpee is, you can put it back in 2 minutes. So that's the example I give. You need to remember, as different, like, I love working out, but I hate burpee. There will never be a day where you tell me, do a burpee, I'll be like, yeah, it will never happen. So when I want to eat something, I look at that food and I try to calculate how many burpees are on my plate. Right? That's, I try to look, I look at my, and oh, that's the rule. I look at it and I'm like, okay, how many burpees are there in that plate of food? And is it worth it? I want you to also remember that it takes 3,500 calories to burn 1 pound. Right? So to lose 1 pound of weight, you need to burn 3,500 calories. So is it worth it? Life is
10
choices.
days of 1 hour a day of work.
Exactly. So you have choices to make, right? Which means if you eat 1,000 calories a day, you need to be able to burn 1,500 calories for you to stay. So life is all choices. You have the good and you have the bad. The question is it worth it? Is it really worth it? I tell fitness, it's one thing I tell, remember this. Fitness is like salvation, right? I can't take you to heaven, no matter how much I love you. I can't work out for you. When you eat that brownie, you have to lose that brownie. It's your job. I can't lose it for you. I can motivate you, I can tell you what to do. No matter how much you love your child, you can't walk them into heaven. They have to do their work. So no matter how much somebody, I can encourage you, I can tell you the things to do, I can tell you stay away from it. But you have to want to do it. Like, take responsibility. You gotta want to do it for yourself. It has to be that important to you.
Yeah. It seems like we are constantly walking. Oh. You go to work 9 to 5, you come home, for the rest of the hours you're still working on food, what to eat, what not to eat. That's what's up. That's what's up. I still can't swallow that one. Because there are some foods out here that are just so good, you know, there's that, the yes or no is not even a factor, it's just to eat, but
I have those days when I want to pig out, like I'm human. I have those days when I love bread. Bread is my thing, like I live for bread. I used to eat bread every day. So now what I do is I eat bread only on Sundays now. And so I live my life looking forward to my Sunday, and I just have to. But I make sure that before I eat that bread, though, I have all of my kids around me so I can share the bread and I have a little piece. But I know in the back of my head that I ate my bread. We are all, the moment you tell yourself you can't eat something, you wake up in the morning thinking about it. Like you dream about it, you want it, you start imagining ways that you're going to have it. But I tell them, I'm going to have bread. I'm just going to have it on Sunday.
discipline. That's bad discipline. I gotta have my bread though. You know, bread is something that, you know, bread or rice I gotta stay away from. You know, that's why I said we're gonna talk about that one after this panel. You know, so we're gonna figure it out after this. Dr. Lillian, she just said no bread, right? No rice, I guess. No rice. You know, let's just say no carbs for it. You know, no carbs. You do need carbs. What kind of carbs?
Healthy carbs. You have sweet potatoes, you have whole wheat bread, you have whole wheat tacos, you have quinoa, you have brown rice. It gives you fuel. So your body needs carbs to fuel your body and do this exercise. Do not cut carbs. It's a lie. Don't cut carbs. Your body needs it.
How can we, you know, structure money in such a way that we're gonna have enough to buy all this healthy food, because organic food is not cheap. I went to the organic
Got
store
that
the other
right.
day, and I just walked right back out the door. I said, well, whoever wants to live on this organic stuff, kudos to them. I would survive on the other side. So how can you structure your budget?
So the first thing I'm going to say is, where you start with your budget. You need to have a budget. You don't just go to the grocery store all willy-nilly, whatever you want, right? You start with the budget because, and one thing too, if you have a menu, you have a budget, that cuts a lot on your costs. Because otherwise, you go to the store buying things you won't end up using and it ends up in the trash. So what happens? If you have a menu, you know that, okay, this week I'm going to make this, and this. You go to the store, you know exactly what you're going to buy. Or by the way, you're not just going, you have your list with you. Because especially us women, we get them. We say, oh yes, I'll make this, definitely I'll make it. And that piece of meat or whatever you buy extra will probably be in the fridge for like 2 weeks. By the time you look at it, it's kind of like greenish in color. So it ends up in the trash. So that's money wasted right there. So the first thing you want to do is definitely make a budget. How much are you going to spend? One thing we also have to realize is these budgets are going to change every so often. Why? Inflation, right? Increase in prices of goods and services. It goes up every year. That's one thing we don't think about. So like, hey, last time I went to the store, egg was like $1.75. Now it's like $1.90. We just wing it, right? But think about it. Every year with 3% inflation rate, you have to also you also have to prioritize what is important to you to be important to the next person. Oh, and for health, by the way, one of my a trainer I used to work with had said, stay on the outside of the grocery store. Don't go to the inside, because on the inside they have all the sweet and things that are so attractive. And you know, the sweet and attractive things are not the healthy things, right? So stay on the outside. You get your fruits, your vegetables, freezer, dairy. Stay away from the ice cream, popcorn, and soda. I mean, every now and then, it's okay, right? You indulge every now and then. However, the main thing is get your budget, prioritize, know how much you're spending where, and you can easily make cuts in places. You can ask yourself, is this a need or is this a want? And you have to be disciplined and consistent. You can't do it on Monday and Tuesday, skip Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, do it on Monday and then skip like for 2 months. No, it has to be consistent for you to actually see change happen. Change doesn't happen overnight, just like you don't lose weight overnight. It's something that you have to take one step at a time, and you have to be honest with yourself. You're not trying to impress anybody. You're trying to do it for yourself. So.
Dr. Grace, two-part question. The first one is what to do if you feel like you're having a heart attack. And if you're by yourself, if you're by yourself and if somebody's with you. And the second part is aspirin. Like, what does aspirin do when it comes to, heart disease? What role does it play?
So I'll start with the symptoms of a heart attack. What will make you think you're having a heart attack? The most common symptom is pain or discomfort in the chest area. And I tell people, anywhere from your belly button to the tip of your ear. You get a funny pain, burning, squeezing, tightening, ache, I don't care, whatever. Toothache on the left side of your mouth. Think of your heart. Oftentimes it's accompanied with something else. So a funny ache, a little indigestion and you're sweating, or a funny ache and you're having chills, or a funny feeling and you're really lightheaded, or all of a sudden you're throwing up something you just don't feel right. Those are the potential signs of a heart attack. 50% of people, mostly men, get there's an elephant sitting on my chest and I feel horrible. But some people just get it was a funny discomfort. I didn't think I could be having a heart attack. It wasn't that bad. It just felt funny. if you think you're having a heart attack, the first thing, if you're going to do one thing, call 911. If you're thinking, you know, this may be my heart, you know, I have 10% chance this is my heart, you know, it's probably the food I ate, I'm not sure. If you think it's your heart, call 911. What'll happen? The ambulance will get there. They'll check you out. If they are sure it's not your heart, they'll leave you there and you'll be fine. You know, some people say, I don't want to call 911 because what if I go to the hospital and it wasn't my heart? What if it was your heart and you didn't go? Who come find you? Who come find you there? And again, when the EMTs, when the emergency medical technicians get there, they'll check you out. If it's definitely not your heart, then, you know, it's not your heart. You won't get a bill. They won't bill you for coming out to see you. The other thing some people say, and, you know, I thought I was having a heart attack, but boy, the hospital is 10 minutes away if I drive. By the time I call 911, call an ambulance, they send an ambulance out here. My neighbors are looking to see what's happening. They get me on the bed, and by the time I get there, it'll be like 30 minutes. Do you know what happens when that call is made? When the ambulance gets to your house, when the EMTs get to your house, if you're having a heart attack, the closest hospital is activated. The ER doctor knows, the cardiologist knows, the cath lab team knows, the nurses know. They are ready and they're waiting. When you walk into the emergency room, a woman who looks like she's 45 and saying, I'm having chest pain, yeah, you often will get, okay, sit there and wait in line. That's time passing. So again, if you think you're having a heart attack, if you're not sure, but something is definitely wrong, call 911. We are paying taxes for a reason. Now, the second thing about aspirin, most heart attacks happen because you had a blood vessel that was open, and for some reason, it clotted closed. Not most, but not all. And aspirin is a blood thinner. It tries to prevent clots from happening. If you think you're having a heart attack, call 911, and then you can go look for your aspirin. You know, don't go chew on aspirin and say, well, let me see if it works. If you're having a heart attack, that's not going to be enough. The aspirin will probably help. It might make it easier for the doctor to open up the clotted artery. But if you take aspirin, don't take it and see how you feel before you decide on whether you call 911, okay? Aspirin is important. There are many people who should be on a low-dose aspirin for several reasons. Not everybody needs it, but that's a good question you should ask your doctor. You know, am I somebody who should get an aspirin? And I can't say this enough, call 911. Now, the second part of the question is if you're with somebody and you think they've had a heart attack, or if you're with somebody and they drop in front of you. I think as a community, we probably don't know enough about CPR. The whole country has that problem, right? People feel like, oh, I don't know enough about CPR, you know, I'm not even sure I'm gonna be doing it right, and gosh, mouth to some stranger, that just sounds wrong. The new guidelines say forget about mouth to mouth. If somebody drops beside you, shake them. If they respond to you, okay, call 911, but they're responding to you. They don't respond, call 911, find your chest and press on it, and keep doing that. If that's all you do, just do it. If you're doing the wrong thing, you won't hurt them, right? But maybe you're doing the right thing. Maybe that little action kept them alive. So that's something which, as a community, I wish we had 3 CPR classes with this. Maybe next time that will include something like that. Just a quick reminder on how you do CPR. You just need to press on their chest while waiting for the ambulance to get there. But if that happens, don't hesitate. If in a party, I saw a funny video, not funny, I saw a horrible video not long ago where somebody dropped at a party and people are, what's happening? What's going on? No. Somebody, just go start pressing on her chest while you guys are calling the ambulance. You never know. That action may save her life or his life.
I'm gonna go rogue for a bit and, you know, try to challenge, you know, a couple points you just made. So for me personally, the reason why I might not call 911 is because I don't want to deal with that bill that comes after. Um, that's one. And also, what if I have a chest pain today, and tomorrow I have a chest pain, and I call 911 today to take me to the hospital. I come back next week, I have a chest pain. Would I keep calling 911?
I think those are great points. So when you call 911 and an ambulance gets to you, they will not always take you to the hospital. If the EMTs get there, check your vital signs, do an EKG, and see that it's clearly indigestion, for example, they'll give you Tums, and they'll leave you there. You won't get a bill for that. You get a bill when medical professionals, trained medical professionals, believe something is wrong. Okay, that's when they take you to the emergency room. If you're not having a heart attack, but your blood pressure is 200 over 110, it's probably a good thing that they took you to the emergency room, because how else would you have known? And if you have pain and you find out it's not your heart, and let's say again, it's indigestion, because that's the most common thing it is, right? And they give you Tums and it fixes it. Or you chew on an antacid or whatever, and if you chew on Maalox and it fixes it. Well, you say, okay, most people will say, okay, I probably ate this thing, it didn't work, I'll avoid this thing. Or I'll buy some Tums and I'll carry Tums with me, and the next time I feel this, I'll chew on it and see if it goes away. The same pain, the pain you'd get from whatever thing is usually the same kind of pain. And so if you're a healthy, young or middle-aged or even older person who has indigestion, has been diagnosed with indigestion, you either get it treated or have exactly the same symptoms, you'll think it's indigestion. Okay. EMTs, I'm not an EMT, but I work closely with them. I think they really like their job, and they do this for a reason. And people would rather come see you and say you're fine than go do a welfare check and find you dead in your house. They really would.
I wish we live in a society where a lot of people had empathy or let me say sympathy for, others. The reason why most people, and I'm not making excuses for other people, but the reason why I believe if somebody, drops right now, and most people just gonna walk past him, is because of the bystander law. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but how can we as a society, ignore that law and actually, just use that, feeling, that, human feeling to deal with people who, let's say, for example, fall in public?
I think I know what you're talking about by the bystander law, but I may be wrong, so anybody feel free to jump in. In most states, if you're a passerby and something happens and you intervene, you're protected. You're protected from being sued. Period. If I'm a doctor and something goes wrong in a plane and I hide, I might actually be in trouble. I could say, well, I was a passerby, or I was sleeping, I didn't hear the announcement. But as a passerby, even as a doctor, if I'm walking by the street minding my business, somebody drops dead and I try to do CPR and I break 5 ribs, I'm protected. I was helping. Yeah. And I think that's a misconception we have. Nobody's going to sue you. And the truth is, even if you were not protected, most people will not. Very few people will actually go to harm you when you were out of a good mind trying to help. Most people will not. But we're protected from that.
Angie, mental health. Depression and all whatnot could lead to, obesity, which eventually leads to heart attack. How can people, that suffer from depression and let's just say mental health in general, how can they try to control that, eventually controlling their health so they could stay away, they could prevent heart disease?
Pretty good question. So like I was saying, the mental definitely ties into the physical. The first thing is awareness. Do you know that you have depression? Do you know that you have anxiety? Do you know that you're having some kind of a mood disorder? Are you aware that this is going on? And I think we need to hold ourselves accountable because your family members and your friends who may not be aware of what they have, you may notice. So I think it's your due diligence but it definitely ties in because if you're depressed, and depression has to do a lot with you not, symptoms would be not doing what you normally do, you're not social, you're always in bed, either you overeat or you don't eat, you're always in this down mood, you're always indoors and not outdoors. And so those things are the things that lead you to not eating like you're supposed to. You're not getting enough rest. Sleep, we take sleep for granted. Sleep is everything. You need to get those 6-7 hours of sleep. Because if you don't get that, you're not going to be able to get up in the morning and do what you need to do. So with those disorders, like I say, the mind is everything. The mind is a powerhouse. If this is not right, then nothing else is going to be right. You're not going to be able to function enough to take that aspirin to have your chest pain, or being motivated enough to go to your doctor's appointments, or even taking care of your kids and being able to meet those needs. You're not going to be able to because mentally you're not taking care of yourself. So it's one of those things where you definitely take for granted. For those that have insurance, it's beyond me because I feel like counseling should be mandatory for everybody. Because there is not one person in here that has not gone through something. We have, including myself, we have all gone through something that has definitely impacted you or even impeded you from doing something to move on to take care of yourself. So why not? What is a counseling session? I had a mental moment just this morning with a very good friend who's going through something, and she had a counseling session with her pastor. And so she called to tell me how this session has literally done everything for her for something that she's been going through for the last 6 months. Just 30 minutes with this pastor did so much for her. And so now she's able to, she was feeling great, went to the grocery store, did the groceries, about to get the kids ready, she's feeling great, and they're about to go to a kids party where if she didn't go to that counseling session, she probably wouldn't have taken those kids to their little party, she wouldn't have gone to the grocery store to get those groceries done. And then imagine this is something that she's been going through for 6 months. So how she's been living at home like that. And it's also important for us not to judge. It's so hard, but you can't judge. And that's the reason why we have so much stigma going on with mental health because we judge. So again, if the mental, we can't get our mental together, we can't get our physical together. You're not going to be conscious enough to know that I have to, get my budget ready to go, shop or to leave work, and pack my gym clothes to go to that Zumba workout with Adija. It's not, and we have to make that conscious effort. If you need a counselor, there's nothing wrong with seeing a counselor. If you have a mental disorder, just like you have heart disease, I have bipolar disorder. My moods are out of whack. I can take something to stabilize it. You take high blood pressure to stabilize your heart. You take high blood pressure medication to stabilize your heart. You take simvastatin or atorvastatin to maintain your cholesterol. And you shoot insulin in your body every day to maintain your diabetes. So why should I not be able to take a Prozac or a Zoloft to keep my mind right? And again, even though some of those disorders are also reversible, you might have situations with depression. You might have depression for a year and you might need medication to stabilize, but you can get off of it. It's not something that you have to take for the rest of your life. So if this is not right, then you can't manage your diabetes and your high blood pressure and your cholesterol.
Dr. Lillian, the impact of financial debt on health. We're getting to the new year, right? And a lot of people are going to say, new year, new fashion. And what end up happening, and most of us carry our old fashion into the new year, thinking, we're doing something good. Like they say, you keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. So, like, what are some impacts of financial debt on health?
Okay. Like you started, right? Definition of insanity by Albert Einstein is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results each time. And that's what we do every year with resolutions. New Year, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And the thing is, this is what we forget to do. You have to write your goals. You don't only, because if it says up here it's wishful thinking, it never happens. It just ends right there. You write your goals. There is what they call the SMART goals. You have to make sure your goals are SMART goals. What does that mean? S for specific. So your goals have to be specific, they have to be measurable, they have to be attainable, they have to be relevant to you, and you should be able to track those goals. Because as we're talking about the weight loss, somebody just says, oh, I'm going to lose 10 pounds in these days, in this X amount of days, blah, blah. You just said, you need to burn 3,500 calories to lose 1 pound. So when you're talking about, oh, I'm going to lose 10 pounds in a month, think about it. That means that's 2.5 pounds every week. That means that's over 7,000 calories that you have to, is that possible? You probably have a full-time job, you probably have kids, you probably have friends. Most of us, for example, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm a co-worker, I'm a boss. You have all these roles you have to play. Do you think you have enough time in a day to burn all that amount of calories so that in a week you can lose 2.5 pounds? So you have to make sure your goals are realistic and they are attainable. Don't sit here and say, and when you're making your goals, you have to be specific in the sense that you cannot just sit and say, I will pay off my school loan in 2 months. Well, if you have about, say, $50,000 left of your school loan, really think about it. Can you do that in 2 months? Maybe you can. Maybe you can. But how much are you bringing in? What about your other expenses? Are you factoring the other things in? So you have to make sure that those goals are set right. And it's not just thinking about, oh, my goals have to be smart, they have to be smart. No. You have to write it down. And if it means the time that you're measuring those goals, if it's every week that you have to go through and say, okay, this is the progress I made. If you're doing like the weight loss, and you say, all right, I want to lose 2 pounds every month, which is a decent goal. That means it's about half a pound each week. Every week, you weigh yourself. Once a week, say every Monday, you weigh yourself to see if you've made that progress. Did I attain that goal? If I didn't attain that goal, what stopped me from reaching that goal? And how can I make that goal better? And the thing is, when you start achieving your goal, you realize that it pushes you more to achieve other goals. So that is the reason why every year we are in the same spot. It's wishful thinking. We don't write it down. There was actually a Harvard study that was done. They did it with the graduating class. And then 5 years later, they followed up with the same class to see the number of people. Everybody was like, oh, in 5 years, I want to do this. In 5 years, I'm going to be that. So after 5 years, they did follow up with the surveys again and found out that only 5% actually achieved the goals they had originally set. Why? Because they wrote it down and they were able to follow through with the goals. There were 15% that wrote the goals down, but only 5% actually got through with the goals in the 5-year period time frame. So that is one big thing we don't do to ourselves. We don't write the goals down. We think that, oh, keeping it in our heads is going to be okay. It is the end of the year now. Well, this is the time to look back, reflect, reassess things. What are you reassessing if you didn't write it down? What are you reassessing? How did you can't tell if you got stuck in the month of June, or maybe it was August that got stuck May. We have a lot of things in our minds. And so in order to achieve certain things, you have to write them down. You have to prioritize them as well and follow through. Again, discipline and consistency is a big thing.
Dr. Grace, well, could you please talk about cholesterol? That's the first part. And the second part, talk about cholesterol, the different types of cholesterol, please.
So like I said earlier, high cholesterol is one of the risk factors for heart disease. Cholesterol, it's something that we need. Our brain cells and all our cells are made of cholesterol. Our liver makes cholesterol, but we also get a lot of it from our diet. Our liver probably makes enough of what we need, but it's almost impossible to eat without ingesting cholesterol. So then, how do we keep our cholesterol within a good range without medication, for example? There are two types of cholesterol. You've probably heard about the good cholesterol and the bad cholesterol. LDL, or lousy cholesterol, is the bad cholesterol. And the LDL and HDL are really carriers that transport the cholesterol. Imagine the bad cholesterol or the LDL as leaking. It carries cholesterol, but then drops it off on your blood vessel walls as it's taking it to the liver. While the HDL, or the healthy cholesterol, actually tries to pick up the bad cholesterol hung up in the vessels. So HDL is your good cholesterol, LDL is your bad cholesterol. Now, like I said, a lot of it comes from the diet. Your body does the right thing, it produces what you need, but you can control how much good and bad cholesterol you take in based on how you eat. A lot of our bad cholesterol comes from animal-based fats. So red meats, high-fat dairy products, whole milk, cheese, those, and essentially any oil that at room temperature is a little solid. I think that's an easy way to remember it. So if you make bacon and you let the oil cool down, you'll see that it's solid. So that's animal fat. Interestingly, this has been a strange misconception, but the few plant-based cholesterols that are bad are coconut oil. Okay, coconut oil is high in LDL, bad cholesterol. Yeah, and essentially, it ends up producing bad cholesterol. Let's just think about it as bad cholesterol. It's a little more complicated than that, but it ends up producing the kind of cholesterol that ends up clogging your arteries. And like I said, an easy way to remember it is any fats or oils that are somewhat solid in room temperature. So coconut oil and palm oil. We call them tropical oils. And then the vegetable oils are good for you. So the canola oils, the corn oils, they're olive oil, of course. They're liquid at room temperature. Dairy products, yes, they are good for you. And am I saying you shouldn't eat meat? No, I eat meat. I eat a lot of meat. But minimizing it, avoiding the fatty meats, eating more lean meats, chicken without the skin, fish, of course. Just be a little careful about where the fish is from. But fish, chicken, and some red meat. Avoiding a lot of products like bacon, avoiding a lot of cheese. Everything in moderation, right? I'm not saying you should never eat a sausage pizza, but just when you're eating it, think about those burpees, and then and also think, how often do I really need to eat this? Don't starve yourself, but just make these small substitutions. I like Cameroonian food. I cook a lot of Cameroonian food. I like eru. I like eru with palm oil. But, do you have to put as much oil as, can you cut down the amount of oil? Would you really miss on the taste? Or can you mix it? Can you mix it with some vegetable oil and then get a little bit of palm oil for the coloring? Just making those substitutions can help make a big difference with your cholesterol numbers. I personally know people who are even older who found out they had high cholesterol. I'll give this example. My parents are in Cameroon, or my mom is in Cameroon, and I have a lot of relatives in Cameroon. But they'd come visit me, and then we'll go get free screenings. Like, most hospitals have screenings where you can go screen your cholesterol. And I noticed that, strangely enough, a lot of middle-aged people who came from Cameroon had extremely high cholesterol levels, which I thought was shocking. They are not overweight, they are educated, you think they eat healthy, and they have ridiculous cholesterol levels. And I found out it was meat, peanuts, palm oil, eggs, yes, peanuts, eggs. And everybody thinks, again, eggs are very healthy. Yeah, egg whites are very healthy. Egg yolks are high in saturated fat. Raises your bad cholesterol. So just being a little more educated about what kind of foods to eat. Don't not eat. Just eat better things. If you're going to eat cheese, use the lower fat cheeses. Drink milk. Skim milk, 2% milk or less. Those little changes, you won't feel them. You won't feel like you're sacrificing much. You'll be making a big change in your overall health.
And this health thing gonna make people learn math and, upgrade their reading skills, because that's all you're gonna do when you're in the grocery store. you made mention about, not eating a lot of palm oil. How man, I don't know what parties you go to, or, it's good for you because you cook. I mean, you cook for yourself. People like us who got to go to our parents' house and they cook, achu ero.
Well, you know what? Get your parents to check their cholesterol, and then maybe they'll change a little bit of how they cook. on a serious note. On a serious note.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
That or take a pill every day for the rest of your life. Which one is better?
How does fitness come into all this? Because I gotta ask that. If I'm gonna eat, I cannot avoid, ero. It's impossible. So how can I eat and exercise?
By the way, arrow is my favorite food. I love arrow. Everything in moderation. Too much water is called drowning, right? Like, everything in moderation. Too much of anything is a problem. So you need to be able to moderate everything. And like I said, it needs to be important enough to you. You'll find ways around it. People call me, most Cameroonians, Africans in general, oh, I want to start working out with you. How much is it? And I tell them, and they're like, oh my God, it's so expensive. And this is what I always tell them. It's two things. It's either you pay a trainer or you pay a doctor. And I think I'm cheaper. You will either pay me or sometime down the line, you will pay a doctor. Somehow you're going to spend that money. And I think I'm cheaper than the doctor. You might as well call me. So it needs to be important to you.
You're going to have to talk to those insurance companies to, allow you to take insurance, and then we could have a conversation. Agni, is health and fitness more of a mental or physical thing?
Absolutely right. It's a mental thing. It's such a mental thing.
You know this one, please elaborate.
I tell my clients before you actually feel the pain on your thigh when you're doing squats, your brain tells you like 10 times, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts. But if you can tell yourself that I can do this. How did I start? Like, how do I learn all of these moves? When I started working out, I started doing Zumba and I was dancing and then, I started liking the way I looked and I wanted to change everything. So I would go to YouTube and I would YouTube something and I'll YouTube a workout. And to me, there's no such thing as a female workout and a male workout. A workout is a workout. I do whatever I want to do. I'll YouTube something and then I'll tell myself that I can do it and I'll practice it until I do it. Before you feel the pain, your mind tells you it hurts, I can't do this. If you tell yourself you can do something, 9 times out of 10, you will not do it. If you tell yourself you can do it, you'll find a way over it, under it, through it, around it, you will find a way to get to it. So it's a mental game.
Dr. Lillian, you spoke a little bit about, setting goals for the new year. And right now, just invite you ladies to, each talk about, how to set goals, exercise goals, mental health goals, medical, visiting your physician more often this coming year.
So I think the biggest thing that happens on New Year's Day is the New Year resolution, right? I am going to lose weight. I think that thing is as good as Valentine's Day, where you're supposed to love somebody only on that day, right? If you wait for New Year, gyms use that to sell memberships, basically. They know it's not going to happen. They know that 2 weeks later, it's going to snow, it's cold outside, it's 4 degrees, and if you don't like working out, you will not be going to the gym in no 4 degrees, period. But But if you make it, you have to change. There's so many other changes that has to happen for that New Year resolution to work. You need to change the things you buy in your house. If it's not available, you will not eat it, right? So if that Coke is not in your house, you will not drink it when you feel thirsty at 6 p.m. in the evening. So there's so many other changes that you need to make. It's a lifestyle change. You do not need January 1st to make a lifestyle change. You can make a resolution to live a better lifestyle any day of the week. Like I said, it's a mental game. So when that January 1st, take this time to prepare yourself, to prepare your mind, to change the things around you, change the things that tempt you. And you don't need to, you might have the money to register in a gym, but if it really has become your lifestyle, even when it snows outside, you will go to YouTube like I did and find a workout that needs no equipment. But you do not need January 1st to decide that you want to be healthy. You can start today.
Moving to the new year, how can, we set mental goals?
Just like our fit mom here said, we don't need to wait until January 1st. I was actually having this conversation with a friend. She was like, yeah, like Christmas, when Christmas goes by, I'm definitely going to start getting back into the gym. Why are you going to wait till after Christmas? Like, what is the difference with you starting now versus right after Christmas? Like, at the end of the day, it's all a mental thing. It's all about being ready. Are you ready to do it? And if you're ready to do it, just do it. That's the thing. That's what holds us. We hold our own selves back from everything. So you don't need to give yourself these deadlines that you're going to probably do for just the first week of January and then be done. So again, we're holding ourselves back. It's a mental thing. It's start now. If you're going through something, we Google everything. I love Google. If that's the one thing I'll use Google. So if you need a resource to something, Google it. Do I need to see a counselor close to me? You Google it. Does my insurance pay? You have a phone number on the back of your insurance. Call that insurance. Find out, can I get this resource? Google things that, what do you like to do? Find out things that you like to do, or just Google stress relaxing techniques. Only meditation alone, 5 minutes of meditation is everything. There are certain things that you like to do that will make you feel great. Please do them often. Exactly. Like, I like to get my nails done. That's my stress. Like, when I go get them done, it makes me feel great for the next 2 weeks until I get them done again. But that's my thing that I know that's going to calm me down. If it's getting your hair done, if it's being able to go to brunch every third Sunday with your girlfriend, something that's such a de-stressor. It takes away from that everything, and it just kind of makes you regroup and brings you back to being able to calm down and avoid certain stressors. So I think that we need to start now. Don't give yourself deadlines, and just find out what works for you and take care of you mentally. It is. I can't even stress. I cannot even stress. But please take care of you. And if you know someone, I said it again. Due diligence. It's up to us to take care of our community as well.
So I agree with both of you about making changes starting today, but I'll make this, I think, easy. Some of us like deadlines because then it's measurable. January 1st is a Monday. By Tuesday, most businesses are back to completely normal. The first week of January, and I mean this, I think it's a very easy thing to do. First week of January, go to a clinic or local hospital. Most clinics or hospitals can let you self-order wellness labs. Those wellness labs will include your cholesterol, your glucose level, kidney tests. Some of them include prostate levels, PSAs for men. They include blood counts. So most, and it's not expensive. It's going to be less than $100, most likely. Some do it even for free. And I'm asking you to go this route so that you don't use the excuse of, I called my doctor to make an appointment and they didn't have a date that worked for me, okay? So you can't use that excuse. Most hospitals have this, and it's walk-in. You walk in, you go to registration, you ask them about wellness labs. First week of January, know what your cholesterol is, get a kidney test, it's a blood test. They'll draw blood once, they'll check your cholesterol, they'll check your glucose levels to know if you're diabetic or not, they'll check a blood count to make sure you're not anemic, and they'll check your kidneys to make sure they're functioning properly. Know your numbers, no excuses. First week of January, you don't need a doctor's order, you don't need a doctor's visit. You pick up the results, and when you pick up the results, they usually come with an explanation of what they mean. You can also weigh yourself in that first week of January. Know what your weight is, and Google it and find out what your ideal weight range for your height is. Know where you are, and give yourself a year, divide it by 12, and plan to lose X amount of pounds in 12 months. Give yourself a year to make that change. Get a friend who is a nurse, or we can even check your blood pressure today. Check your blood pressure. Know what your blood pressure is. You can do this. You can do this by January 7th. Actually do it. And if your numbers are perfect, well, you're doing something right. Go focus on your finances and your mental health. If they are not perfect, now you know. You can do something about it.
Okay, let's see. Do you have sleepless nights trying to figure out how you're going to pay that mortgage? Do you have anxiety wondering where your kids' tuition is going to come from? Right? Are you a little bit depressed because you work 2 to 3 jobs, yet you can't pay your bills at the end of the month? Well, if you notice what I just said, there you go. There's depression in there, there's insomnia in there, there's anxiety in there. What does that do? It causes chronic stress. Where does that take you? It leads you down to heart attack. It leads you down to hypertension. It leads you down to migraines. It leads you to backache. It leads you to several things. That's your health right there. And where did it all stem from? From finances. A survey was done by APA, and they found out that 64% of what causes your stress is finance. You can't sleep at night. Then you miss work. You can't focus. You end up missing work. You end up at the hospital. And then knowing right there on your sick bed that you can't even pay the bill makes it even worse. It makes you even sick again. So people, please, this is something we all need to take seriously. We need to learn the basics. We need to educate ourselves, because at the end of the day, it ties in with everything. You know, we take it for granted. We take things for granted. We postpone things. And guess what? Our kids are watching. Sometimes they go to school, they can't focus, because guess what? They heard mommy and daddy talking about money, and they are seeing the stress. They may not have had breakfast that morning before going to school, and you're expecting them to go study. Psychologically, it affects them. They are growing up. They are seeing how things are. When they get there, that's the same thing they are going to be doing, unconsciously, just because that's what they grew up with. That's what they saw. So it has to start now. It has to start with us by taking action, helping our kids. How can we help them not get to where we are today? How can we help them know that you have to start planning for your retirement as young as you are? I don't know if all of you here are from Africa or Cameroon, but back home, we wait for our kids to take care of us when we are old. They are our investment. Well, in this country, it's different. If that's what you're counting on, then, woo! you're going to be in for a shock. It's not going to happen. And when you think about, if I have, by the way, retirement age is 67.
Let's go! Make it hot! Come on! Let's go! Rock! Say what? Rock! Let's go! Rock this party! Dance everybody! Make it hot in this party! Don't stop! Move your body! Rock this party! Dance everybody! Make it hot in this party! Don't know what's on your mind. We come for you, have a good time. Me want you on your waistline. Me want you shake to behind. I'm in a dancing mood, girl, and I'm feeling good. This is my favorite tune. Put on your dancing shoes. Gonna make you feel so good tonight, girl. Gonna make you sweat tonight, girl. Me gonna make you wet tonight, girl. Me gonna make you feel alright.
Came to rock at this party, 'cause I can make you feel alright. Sweet boy, rock your body, rock it straight through the night. Oh, you want this body, oh, you want it now. Sweet boy, rock your body, 'cause I'ma make you mine tonight.
Let's go! Let's go! Dance! Now everybody move! Now everybody shake! Now everybody do the other thing on the dance, girl, one test you. Don't stand a chance, so gotta look